sprouted like autumn crocuses. Fox FM came on air in Oxfordshire in September. Sunset Radio in Manchester is due to start this week. LBC in London split into Crown FM and Talkback Radio on October the 2nd. Radio Caroline disappeared in August but popped back again in September, and the IBA said there would be 2 brand new London incrementals. Meanwhile, on Radio 4, citizens kept rolling along, even if not very merrily. Wow noise of a pop station presenter being awfully enthusiastic. But in this case, spot the presenter's accent and the wavelength he's directing us towards.
Mine is the first voice you'll ever hear on Atlantic 252.
Good morning. Atlantic 252, dry with sunny spells in England, Wales and eastern Scotland. It's the forecast. Showers later in western Scotland and Ireland. Look out for a high of 18 degrees.
We've got the hits of the world on the most music. Atlantic 252, long way.
Atlantic 252, now beaming almost non-stop music to the 15 to 34 age group in mainland Britain from a 500-kilowatt transmitter towering above County Meath in the Republic of Ireland. And nobody will exactly say how well it's doing, but at Atlantic they talk in terms of millions of listeners, not thousands, and some of the stations most affected by Atlantic keep very quiet about its presence. Stuart Linnell, station manager of Mercia Sound in Coventry, however, feels too annoyed to hold his tongue. He's most unhappy about an Irish station which seems to be so blatantly broadcasting outside its own territory.
The frequency, of course, was allocated to Southern Ireland for domestic use within that country. Now, it's pretty clear that that's never been the intention of Radio Tara Limited, as it was originally called, Atlantic 252, as it now calls itself. They've made it absolutely clear in various documents that we have seen in the UK, and indeed in public pronouncements by their management, and of course the massive advertising campaign that's gone on unashamedly across the United Kingdom. In the Mercia Sound area, in Coventry for instance, we've got poster sites on key routes in and out of the city announcing the fact that Atlantic 252 exists, is broadcasting on long wave, and is there to provide music first and speech joint 15th. Now, certainly, the advertising campaign proves, if nothing else did, that their intention all along has been to totally abuse the allocation of this frequency. It's not for Southern Ireland use at all. It's to broadcast to the UK.
But what constitutes abusing a frequency? I contacted Travis Baxter, station manager of Atlantic, to see if he was prepared to plead guilty to the charge.
Not at all, because we're not actually beaming the transmitters to the UK. We have an omnidirectional antenna, which was licensed to cover the whole of Ireland and needs to operate at the power it does in order to achieve that objective. It's coincidental, as you're aware, that there is a significant amount of spillover, and in the same way that other broadcasters have been doing in some instances for 50 or 60 years, we see there's an opportunity to exploit that, and that's what we're doing.
Spillover seems to make it sound very accidental when I have in front of me a leaflet of yours which talks about broadcasting, and I'm quoting, from a carefully selected location in Ireland, we can cover a very large segment of the lucrative British market. That sounds a little bit more than accidental. And again, I have the Radio Tara transmitter had to be placed so as to reach the maximum possible area of Britain, its primary target.
Well, in the context of the item you're referring to, that's clearly something which is designed to help us exploit that spillover, which is, clearly what we're trying to do. Wherever you are, we're trying to create a different impression from the receiving end of what we say. So that if we were talking to you and you were living in Ireland, we would want you to be aware that we were serving this community and also providing commercial opportunities for advertisers in Ireland. If you were receiving something in the UK, we would want to give you the impression that we were providing a service which was relevant to listeners in the UK and also providing an opportunity for advertisers in the UK. The context is an international one, and what we try and do with that sort of a document is to indicate that international concept by giving the feel that we are actually serving a number of communities, which we are.
That does seem to me to be very complicated. Let me try and simplify it for myself, at least, by saying to you that when originally the Irish government obtained this long-wave allocation, it was awarded, was it not, principally for use in the Republic of Ireland, and that indeed, according to ITU rules, that you are specifically instructed, in fact, that you should only transmit to that indigenous area.
I hear what you say, but I think the nature of transmission facilities is that they don't stop at national boundaries. Radio 4 service on long wave is listenable, as you know, through most of Northern Europe and throughout the whole of Ireland. And the same argument could theoretically apply if you look at the world service, where the BBC targets specifically other countries. I don't think there's anything wrong in it. I think it's a perfectly positive way of developing international broadcasting.
Travis Baxter of Atlantic 252. Well, to try to resolve the argument, when is a spillover not a spillover but an illegal broadcast, we rang the European authority, the ITU, International Telecommunications Union, which originally allocated the frequency. After some consultation, they came back and told us that as long as Atlantic Radio was not exceeding the agreed 500 kilowatt transmitter power, its transmissions to the UK could legitimately be described as, yes, a spillover. Of course, what so fuels the anger of Atlantic's opponents in the UK is the fear that if the station mops up some of the advertising revenue which currently finances local commercial radio in this country, then not only might a number of the new stations go to the wall, but doubts might even be raised about the financial viability of the 3 new national commercial stations which are due to open in this country by 1992. Stuart Linnell is not at all reassured by Atlantic's counterclaims.
Although they claim very grandly to be bringing in new advertisers to commercial radio in this country, so far there's no proof of that. The only advertisers they have on board, and there aren't very many of them, are people who already spend their money on the existing UK independent radio system. And even if they do attract new advertisers, there is no way that the money that Atlantic 252 earn will find its way back to the benefit of the rest of us, whereas it will do, of course, with the new, if you like, legit commercial stations.
But at Atlantic, they see no reason at all why they should not dip their bucket in Britain's advertising revenue pool. Last week alone, they were busy signing contracts with Express newspapers, Kimberley-Clark, Phillips and Bristol and West Building Society. Their consultant, John Catlett, was quite unrepentant about taking all this money out of the UK system.
It seems to me that a free and open marketplace is essential for the capitalistic way of life. And it seems to me, too, that if Britain's Commercial Radio Club can't get used to a little imaginative competition from Atlantic 252 now, they'll be very ill-prepared for survival after 1992.
John Catlett of Atlantic 252, another example, I suppose, of the maxim that one person's free market is another's unfair competition. And now to more tranquil matters.